The little girl's voice cracked through the dimly lit living room. Her tiny hands shielded her younger brother as she sobbed, "Please, don't hurt us." The room smelled of stale alcohol and anger, the shadow of a man towering over them. Neither child knew that only hours later, a thunderous voice from the doorway would change everything. The night had begun like so many others, quiet, almost deceptively normal. The rain tapped softly on the cracked window pane, while the children clung together on the old couch. Their father had been gone for weeks again, and in his absence, their stepmother's temper only grew sharper, her patience thinner. "Worthless brats," she hissed as she snatched the remote from the boy's trembling hand. "Always eating, always crying. Do you think money falls from the sky?" 7-year-old Lila tried to stay brave, but the way her stepmother's eyes narrowed made her heart pound. Lila pulled her brother, Sam, close, whispering, "Don't say anything. Just stay quiet." But silence didn't save them. The woman's fury only seemed to rise in the presence of innocence. She slammed the remote against the table and leaned down, her voice like venom. "Your father doesn't even want you. If it weren't for me, you'd be rotting somewhere on the streets." Sam whimpered, and that was enough to ignite her rage further. She raised her hand and Lila instinctively shielded her brother, crying out, "Don't hurt us." The sound of her own plea startled her. It was louder than she intended, a desperate cry that seemed to echo in the empty house. For a moment, the stepmother froze, her arms suspended midair, as if savoring the power of fear she created. Then she smirked, lowering her hand not out of mercy but calculation. "You think crying will save you? You're just like your mother, weak." That cut deeper than any slap could. Lila had no memories of her mother, only fragments of stories told in whispers. But even as young as she was, she understood cruelty when she heard it. The night stretched endlessly, each second heavy with dread. The children huddled on the couch, too afraid to move, too afraid to sleep. Every creak of the house felt like danger crawling closer. And then came the moment that none of them expected. A car door slammed outside. Not the rusty creak of the stepmother's old sedan, but the heavy, confident thud of something far more expensive. Headlights cut across the curtains, flooding the living room with sudden light. The stepmother stiffened. Her smirk faltered. "Stay here," she snapped, though her voice carried a sudden tremor. The front door swung open with such force it rattled the frame. Boots thudded against the wooden floor, each step deliberate, echoing through the house like a drumbeat of authority. And then a voice, deep, commanding, filled with restrained fury, rolled through the air. "What is going on here?" The children froze, their eyes wide. The stepmother swallowed hard, her earlier cruelty crumbling under the weight of that voice. Because standing there, silhouetted against the storm, was the man everyone thought had abandoned them, their father. For a moment, silence reigned. Only the rain outside dared to speak, dripping steadily from the eaves. The stepmother's mouth opened, then shut again. She tried to conjure her usual sharpness, but the man's eyes, dark, piercing, and alive with fury, held her frozen in place. "Richard," she finally stammered, forcing a nervous smile. You're home early. I wasn't expecting." "Don't lie to me." His voice cut like thunder. He took a step forward, and the children could see the glint of water on his expensive coat, the faint scent of cologne that clung to his presence. Richard wasn't just a father, he was a man who carried power wherever he went. People feared him in the boardroom, but here, in this fragile little house, he was something far more terrifying to those who had dared harm his children. Sam clutched at Lila's sleeve, whispering, "Is it really him?" His voice trembled with disbelief. Lila nodded slowly, though tears still lingered in her eyes. She wanted to run to him, to bury her face in the safety of his arms, but fear still held her rooted. Would he stay? Or was this just a fleeting appearance like before? Richard's eyes moved past the stepmother, landing on the children. His jaw tightened when he saw the way they clung to each other, their tiny bodies trembling. His chest rose with a sharp breath, but he kept his words steady, calm, and chilling. "What did you do to them?" The stepmother laughed nervously, shaking her head. "Nothing. They exaggerate everything. Kids cry, you know how it is." He cut her off with a glare so fierce she stumbled back a step. "Do you take me for a fool?" I heard Lila scream before I even stepped inside. My daughter begged for mercy in her own home. The words cracked through the room, sharper than any slap. Lila's eyes widened. He called her his daughter. For years she had lived with whispers, claims that he didn't care, that he had moved on, that they were just burdens. Yet in that one word, daughter, something in her heart shifted. The stepmother tried again, desperate now. "Richard, you don't understand. I've been holding this family together while you were away. Do you have any idea what it's like to deal with their constant whining, their needs? Enough." His roar made the walls tremble. He stepped past her, and for the first time in years, the children saw his anger not directed at them but for them. He knelt before them, his expensive shoes damp against the worn carpet, and placed his hands gently on their shoulders. "Lila." "Sam." His voice softened. "You don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm here now." The children's composure cracked. Sam burst into tears, burying his face against his father's chest, while Lila clung to his coat, sobbing with a mix of relief and disbelief. The stepmother's face hardened as she watched. "So that's how it is?" she spat bitterly. "You disappear for months and suddenly you act like a savior? These kids don't need you, they need discipline." Richard rose slowly, his height towering over her, his expression like steel. "They need love. Something you've never given them." Her lip curled, venom replacing fear. "And what about you, Richard? What makes you think you're fit to judge me? You weren't here." He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned closer, his voice low but deadly. "I wasn't here, because I was building a life for them. A life you tried to destroy." The stepmother faltered, suddenly aware of the weight of those words. Because behind his fury, she realized something she hadn't before. Richard hadn't come back empty-handed. He had come back with power. The storm outside raged louder, but it was nothing compared to the storm brewing inside the house. Richard's eyes no longer carried just fury, they carried resolve. He straightened his coat, then reached into the inside pocket. The stepmother narrowed her eyes, watching him pull out a folded set of documents, the edges still crisp. He let them fall onto the table with a deliberate slap. "What's this?" she asked, her voice tight. "Proof," Richard said calmly. "Proof that while you treated my children like pests, I was securing every asset, every property, every dollar in their name. You thought my silence was abandonment. In truth, I was protecting them from you." Her face drained of color. She flipped through the papers, her hands trembling as she saw signatures, seals, bank records, all undeniable. The empire she thought she was feeding off? None of it was hers. "You can't do this," she hissed. "I've been their caretaker. I have rights." Richard's lips curled into the faintest smirk. "Caretaker? You're nothing but a leech. And as of tonight you're done. The courts will see these documents, along with the testimony of my children. You've already written your own ending." The stepmother's eyes darted toward the children, desperate. But Lila for the first time didn't shrink away. She stood straighter, clutching her brother's hand. "You said he didn't want us," she whispered, her voice steady. "But you were wrong. He came back. And now you can't hurt us anymore." The stepmother took a step back, her mouth opening to argue, but Richard's hand shot up like a barrier. "Leave. Now. Before I make this uglier for you than it already is." For once she had no power left. The venom, the arrogance, the control, it all shattered under the weight of truth. Without another word, she grabbed her bag, her footsteps sharp against the floor, and slammed the door behind her. The house fell quiet. Only the fading storm outside remained, like a curtain closing on a scene. Richard turned back to his children, his eyes softening as he knelt once more. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking for the first time. "I should have been here sooner. I should have protected you from all of this." Lila's small hand rose, brushing at her tear-streaked cheek. "You're here now," she said simply. Sam sniffled, clinging to his father's sleeve. "Don't leave again." Richard pulled them both into his arms, his embrace firm and unshakable. "Never again," he vowed. "From this night on you'll have not just a house, but a home." The three of them sat there, the storm outside slowly easing, replaced by the fragile but growing warmth inside. The children no longer felt like shadows in their own lives. They were seen. They were safe. And as Richard held them close, he whispered the truth that would echo in their hearts for years to come. Strength isn't found in wealth or power, it's found in protecting the ones who cannot protect themselves. If this story touched you, don't just scroll away. Hit subscribe, share it with someone who believes in the power of love and justice, and join our community where every underdog's voice matters. Together, we'll keep proving that no darkness can silence the truth.